You stripe it clean. Dead center. You feel that little click in your hands that tells you the strike was pure. And you look up, and the ball lands a good 20 yards short of where that exact same swing put it 10 years ago. Same club, same tempo, less distance. And everybody keeps telling you the same tired thing. You're getting older, slow down, accept it. But that's a lie, and I can prove it. Because the distance you lost isn't hiding in your body. It's hiding in the 7-iron sitting in your bag right now. The clubs most golfers your age are swinging were never built for the swing you actually have. And once I understood why, I got 15 yards back for a man in his 70s without changing a single thing about how he swings. I didn't set out to learn any of this. It started on a Tuesday afternoon at a little range outside my town, watching a retired schoolteacher named Walt hit balls next to me. He was crushing it, beautiful smooth motion, and every shot fell out of the sky like a wounded bird. He turned to me and said, "I used to fly this club to that far flag. Now I can't get halfway." And something about the way he said it stuck in my chest all night. So I started digging, through patent records, through old equipment catalogs, through a testing study that measured thousands of ordinary golfers, most of whom had no idea they were losing free distance every single round. And it led me to one specific document from 1966 that explains exactly how the clubs in your bag got twisted into something that quietly robs you. Stay with me to the end, because the last thing I found is so simple and so cheap that it works this weekend, with the clubs you already own, no matter how old you are or how slow you think you swing. Let me show you the trail. The first thing that stopped me cold was a number. I laid an old iron next to a brand new one, both stamped with the same number on the bottom, and they were not the same club, not even close. Here's what I mean. I got my hands on a set of irons from the 1960s, the kind your father or grandfather might have carried. I measured the loft on the 7-iron. The loft is just the angle of the face, how much it tilts back to lift the ball into the air. That old 7-iron measured about 38 degrees. Then I grabbed a 7-iron off the rack at a big shop, made in the last couple of years. Same number, 7. I measured the loft, 28 degrees, 10 degrees of difference, 10, on a club with the same number stamped on the sole. Let that sink in for a second, because it took me a while to believe it myself. The 7-iron they're selling you today has the loft of what used to be a 4-iron. A 4-iron. That's a club most golfers your age gave up trying to hit years ago because it was too hard to get in the air. And they did this on purpose. It's got a name in the industry. They call it loft strengthening, or as some old club fitters told me, loft creep. Little by little, decade by decade, they bent the faces of the irons stronger and stronger and kept the same numbers on the bottom. Why? So that when you go to a store and test a new 7-iron against your old one, the new one flies farther. You think, wow, this new club gives me distance, I have to buy it. But it didn't give you anything. They just handed you a stronger club wearing a weaker club's name tag. Now here's why that quietly hurts a golfer with an easier, smoother swing. Loft is what launches the ball into the air. When you take loft away, you need a lot of club head speed to get that ball flying high enough to carry a real distance. A young player swinging out of his shoes can do it, but if your swing has gotten smoother and easier over the years, and whose hasn't, that stronger, lower lofted face doesn't launch your ball. It shoots it out low and flat, and the ball dives out of the air early. That's the wounded bird I watched Walt hit all afternoon. He didn't have a slow swing problem, he had a loft problem. His clubs were fighting him. So that's the first clue cracked. The numbers on your irons are lying to you, but that only explained why the ball wasn't climbing. It didn't explain the bigger mystery that was nagging at me, because even after I understood the loft trick, I still couldn't figure out why the clubs themselves felt like such hard work to swing. And that's where the trail got a whole lot darker, because loft was only half of it. The other half was hanging in your hands the entire time, and almost nobody talks about it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever finished 9 holes and noticed your last few iron shots got shorter and uglier, even though you were swinging just as hard? You blamed getting tired. I did too. But what I found says it isn't really you getting tired. It's the weight of the shaft in your clubs wearing you down, shot after shot after shot. Here's the piece I had to learn. The shaft is the long part, the pole between the grip and the head, and for most of golf history, shafts were made of steel. Heavy steel. A standard steel iron shaft can weigh around 120 grams, some of the older ones even more. That doesn't sound like much when you pick one up. But you're not picking it up once. You're swinging it, again and again, and you're doing it while trying to accelerate the head as fast as you can. And here is the simple physics that the marketing never bothers to explain to you. Club head speed is where distance comes from. The faster the head is moving when it meets the ball, the farther the ball goes. It's that basic. Now, a lighter shaft is easier to swing fast. A heavier shaft is harder to swing fast. So if your swing has gotten smoother with age, a heavy steel shaft is like asking you to sprint while carrying a bag of bricks. The fix has existed for decades. Graphite shafts. Graphite is the lighter material they started building serious shafts from back in the 1970s. A good graphite iron shaft built for an easier swing can weigh around 60 to 80 grams. That can be 40, even 50 grams lighter than the steel shaft that's probably in your irons right now. I wanted a real number, not a sales pitch, so I chased down the testing. Club fitters who measure this for a living see it constantly. When they move an older golfer out of heavy steel and into a properly fit lighter graphite shaft, they routinely pick up somewhere between 3 and 5 miles per hour of club head speed. And the rule of thumb that's been measured over and over is that every single mile per hour of club head speed is worth roughly 2 to almost 3 yards of distance with an iron. Do that math with me. 4 miles per hour faster, times a little over 2 yards each. That's 8 to 10 yards of carry you get back with the exact same swing, the exact same effort, just because the club stopped fighting you. That's not a swing tip. You didn't practice anything. You just took the bricks out of your hands. So now I had two culprits. The loft was too low to launch your ball, and the shaft was too heavy to let you swing it fast. And a cold feeling started creeping over me because I realized these two problems weren't accidents. Somebody understood exactly how a golfer's swing changes over the years. Somebody knew that an easier swing needs more loft and less weight. And they kept selling that golfer stronger lofts and heavy steel anyway, then charged him again for lessons to fix a problem the equipment created. That's when I went looking for the person who started all of this. And what I found in a patent from 1966 changed the way I look at every club in the store. His name was Karsten Solheim, and in the 1960s, he wasn't a golf executive. He was an engineer who worked for a big electronics company, tinkering with his own clubs in his garage at night because he was frustrated with how they played. He figured out something that still governs every forgiving club made today. He realized that if you take the weight out of the middle of the club head and push it out to the edges, around the perimeter, the club becomes dramatically more forgiving on off-center hits. They call it perimeter weighting. He filed his patents, and by the late 1960s his company Ping was building irons with a hollowed-out back, what we now call the cavity back iron. Here's why that matters to you. Solheim's whole idea was to help the ordinary golfer, the person who doesn't hit the center of the face every time, which is every one of us. His invention meant that when you caught the ball a little toward the toe or the heel, you didn't lose nearly as much distance or accuracy. It was, genuinely, one of the great gifts ever given to the everyday player. But here's the twist that turned my stomach as I read through the history. The technology that was invented to help you became the very thing they used to confuse you, because once every company could make a forgiving, cavity-back iron, they needed a new way to make theirs look better than the next guy's on the store shelf. And the easiest number to advertise, the one that makes a customer's eyes light up, is distance. So they went back to the faces and bent the lofts stronger and stronger, chasing bigger distance numbers on the marketing sheet, decade after decade. The forgiveness stayed, but the honest loft, the loft that a smoother swing actually needs to get the ball airborne, quietly disappeared. And they had one more trick to hide what they'd done. Now, I've put a lot of the loft trail into this video for free, because I think you deserve to know it before you spend another cent at a pro shop. But what I could not fit here is the part where you sit down with your own bag and diagnose it club by club, the way a fitter would, without paying one. That's what I wrote the books for. In them, I walk you through measuring your real swing speed at home with no appointment, reading the independent test data so nobody can fool you with a marketing number, and knowing exactly which clubs in your bag can be saved with a cheap fix and which ones are genuinely stealing your yards. There's also the salesman script, the questions he cannot dodge when you walk in, so you never buy the wrong club again. If you want that, scan the QR code right there on your screen, link in the description, pinned comment. The books are all three there. Knowing every trick they layered on top of it is what keeps your money in your pocket. And believe me, they layered plenty. When they made the 7-iron's loft as strong as an old 4-iron, there was suddenly a gap at the bottom of the set. The old high-lofted short irons had nowhere to go. So they simply added new clubs, gave them new letters instead of numbers, and sold them to you separately. That's where all these extra wedges came from that your grandfather never needed. You're now buying more clubs to fill a hole that they created by cheating the numbers in the first place. So the mystery was really taking shape now. It wasn't one villain. It was an entire equipment industry that took a brilliant invention meant to help you and slowly reshaped it into a machine for selling you distance you couldn't actually use. And the golfer who paid the price the most was you, the player with the experienced, easier, smoother swing. But knowing all this left me with a very practical problem, because I could already hear the objection forming in your head, and it's a fair one. You're thinking, fine, but I'm not about to spend $2,000 on a brand new custom set of irons just to chase a few yards. And you shouldn't have to. So let me stop right here, because this next part is for you specifically, the person sitting there with the bag you already own, thinking this is all well and good for somebody starting fresh. It's not. Here's what you can do this week, in your current bag, without buying a whole new set. Start with the hardest clubs in your bag, the long irons, your 3-iron, your 4-iron, maybe your 5-iron. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time one of those got a ball up in the air and made it land soft on a green? For most golfers with an easier swing, the answer is almost never. Those long irons have too little loft and a face too small to help you. They are the single most useless clubs most older golfers carry. So take them out. Just pull them out of the bag, and replace only those 2 or 3 clubs with hybrids. A hybrid is that rounded, hollow-headed club that looks like a little wood. It was designed to do one job, to replace a hard-to-hit long iron with something that launches the ball high and easy. Karsten Solheim's forgiveness idea lives inside a hybrid in its purest form. The center of gravity sits low and back, so the ball climbs into the air almost by itself, even on a smooth, unhurried swing. You don't need a matched set. You can buy hybrids one at a time, and you can buy them used for a fraction of the price of new irons. Golfers sell barely used hybrids constantly. A 4-iron replaced by a hybrid of the same loft will fly higher, land softer, and, because the hybrid is easier to swing fast, usually carry farther too. That's the whole game right there. Higher launch and easier speed from a single club swap you can make for the price of a couple tanks of gas. Here's a second thing you can do today for free. Go grab your irons and look at the grips. Are they hard, shiny, and slick? Worn smooth? Because a slick grip forces your hands to squeeze harder than they should, and hands that squeeze too hard are tense hands, and tense hands kill clubhead speed without you ever feeling it happen. Fresh grips cost only a few dollars each. It is the cheapest speed you will ever buy. When your hands can relax on the club, the head releases faster through the ball, and faster is farther. And one more, and this one costs nothing at all. Most older golfers I watch grip the club with the pressure of a man wringing out a wet towel. Loosen it. Hold the club just firmly enough that it won't fly out of your hands. A relaxed grip lets the shaft do its job and whip the head through impact. I've watched that single adjustment add a few yards on the spot. So you see, none of this requires a fresh start or a fat wallet. Pull the dead long irons, drop in a used hybrid or two, freshen your grips, and loosen your hands. You could do all of that before your next round. But even after I handed Walt every one of those fixes, I still hadn't found the biggest thing. Because there was one more clue nagging at me, and it had nothing to do with the clubs at all. It was sitting on the ground, and when I finally traced it down, it turned out to be the cheapest distance secret of them all, the one they least want you thinking about. It was the ball. Not the club, the little ball sitting on the tee. And this is the piece that almost nobody your age has ever had explained to them honestly, so let me walk you through exactly how I found it, because it changed everything for me. I kept coming across a term buried in the fitting research: compression. Every golf ball has a compression rating. Compression is just a measure of how hard or soft the ball is, how much it squishes when the club head strikes it. And here is the part that matters. A golf ball only gives you its full distance when your swing is fast enough to actually compress it, to squash it against the face for a split second so it springs back and launches like a coiled spring. Now think about the most famous, most expensive golf balls in the world. The ones the touring professionals play, the ones plastered all over every advertisement, the premium ball that costs around $50 for a dozen. Those balls are built firm, high compression. They're designed for players who swing the club head well over 100 miles per hour. At that speed, those golfers crush the ball, compress it fully, and get every ounce of performance out of it. But here's the trap. Millions of everyday golfers, especially proud, experienced players, walk into the shop and buy that same expensive premium ball because it's the best, because it's what the pros play, because it costs the most, so it must be the finest. And their swing speed is nowhere near 100 miles an hour. Maybe it's 80, maybe 75, and at that speed you physically cannot compress that firm ball. You're swinging a hammer at a rock that won't dent. All that beautiful energy from your swing, you never get it back. The ball just refuses to spring. So I went looking for hard proof, and I found it. One of the major ball makers, Bridgestone, ran what they called one of the largest ball fitting studies ever done, putting tens of thousands of regular golfers through real testing with launch monitors, and the finding was staggering. The overwhelming majority of everyday golfers were playing the wrong ball for their swing speed. They were leaving distance on the table on every single tee, every single hole, because they were playing a ball too firm to compress. And the fix cost less than almost anything else in this entire investigation: a low compression golf ball. They're often labeled soft, and here's the beautiful irony: they're usually cheaper than the premium balls, not more expensive. A dozen good low compression balls can run you around $20 to $30, sometimes less. For a golfer with a smoother, easier swing, that softer ball actually compresses. It squishes and springs the way it's supposed to. It launches higher, it comes off the face faster, and the testing shows slower swinging players can pick up meaningful yardage, several yards on their irons, and even more off the tee, just by switching to a ball their swing can actually squeeze. Let me put the whole thing together for you now, because when I stacked it all up for Walt, I could see it land on his face. We put lighter graphite shafts under his hands so he could swing faster with the same effort. We pulled his dead long irons and dropped in 2 hybrids with real loft so the ball would climb. We freshened his grips and loosened his hands, and then we put a low compression ball on the tee, a ball his swing could finally compress. Not one of those changes asked him to swing harder or younger. Every one of them just stopped the equipment from fighting the swing he already had. 15 yards. That's what Walt got back, club after club, and the man laughed out loud on the range like he'd found money in an old coat. He hadn't gotten younger, he'd just stopped being lied to. And that's the thing I need you to understand, the emotional core of everything I dug up. The distance you've been mourning was never really gone. It was taken from you, a few yards at a time, by numbers stamped on your clubs that weren't honest, by heavy shafts that wore you down, by a brilliant invention twisted into a sales pitch, and by a shiny, expensive ball your swing was never built to squeeze. You didn't lose your game. Somebody profited from you believing you did. You are the kind of person who refuses to keep paying for what you can figure out and fix yourself. You'd rather understand the machine than be sold by it. And now you understand it better than 90% of the players you'll stand next to on the first tee this weekend. You can walk out there, swing exactly the way you swing today, and watch the ball fly the way it used to, because you finally know which changes actually matter and which ones were only ever there to empty your wallet. So here's what I want you to tell me. Go look at your 7-iron right now and find the loft if you can. Or just tell me this: are you still carrying a 3 or 4 iron that hasn't gotten a ball airborne in years? Type it in the comments below. Say I'm pulling my long irons and let me know which hybrid you're thinking of putting in the bag. I read them and I answer. Don't just watch and move on. Leave the comment, because half the wisdom on this channel ends up in that comment section from people who've been playing this game longer than I've been alive. And if you're the kind of person who's tired of being sold the expensive way to do everything, when the old, honest way still works better, then come with us. This is a whole community quietly recovering the practical knowledge that convenience culture buried, the stuff that keeps money in your pocket and puts control back in your hands. Subscribe and stand with us, because the next trail I'm chasing is even bigger. I found out that the exact same loft trick they pulled on your irons, they pulled on something you swing far more often, the one club in your bag you spent the most money on, the driver. And what I uncovered about how they measure and sell driver distance is going to make you look at that big titanium head in a whole new way. I'll see you there. So that was just the overview. Inside the Practical Wisdom Circle, I take you through the full fix, loft by loft, on your own irons. And if you get stuck, you can ask me directly. A real person answers, never a machine. You'd be joining folks just like you, all working on the same game. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. And you can cancel anytime, no risk at all. Now, the right irons are only half the story. Your driver may be quietly costing you the most distance of all. In the next video, I'll show you the clubs that give those long, easy yards back. It's starting right here.